Imagine searching for the ultimate love of your life for 1,000 years. Like, you have been waiting, hoping, looking everywhere.
Oh, wow. 1,000 years is quite the wait.
Right. And now imagine they finally arrive. But they don't have a body. They don't have a face.
Okay, that's a twist.
Yeah. And they were speaking to you through a mouth they had to, borrow from an elderly stranger.
That is definitely not your typical rom-com setup.
Not at all. But that is the actual premise of today's deep dive. And honestly, it completely shatters the blueprint we are usually handed for a love story.
It's a massive, almost jarring paradigm shift, really. We usually think of romance or even just deep connection as something inherently human, right?
Yeah, exactly. Physical, tangible.
Right. Two people navigating life together. But this material we're looking at today asks us to zoom out way beyond the human lifespan.
Totally. So for you listening, we are looking at a really fascinating spiritual document today. It's a text dated May 11, 2026. And in its specific tradition, it's known as a Murli.
A Murli, right.
Yeah. And the best way to think of this is as a recorded transcript of spiritual instructions and philosophical insights. But the kicker here, the element that makes this so uniquely compelling to read.
And it really is compelling.
It is, because the text is framed as a direct, verbatim message from a supreme soul. This entity is referred to as a spiritual father, or Shiv Baba.
Right, speaking directly to spiritual students.
Exactly. And the texts affectionately call these students children.
So our mission for this deep dive is to impartially explore this highly intricate, very bold spiritual framework. We're going to look at its stunning claims about the nature of God, the cyclical mechanics of time.
Which are wild, by the way.
They really are. And we'll see how it radically reinterprets some of the world's most recognizable religious symbols.
Yes, I can't wait to get into that part.
Me too. Ultimately, though, we want to extract the core psychological lessons this text offers about achieving an unshakable state of mind.
Right, because regardless of your personal theology, whether you subscribe to this specific framework or not, the psychological tools it presents for navigating chaos are incredibly sharp.
They absolutely are. It's very practical.
It is. The text speaks directly to the reader, pulling absolutely no punches. So I invite you to just sit back as we explore these concepts together.
Where should we start?
Let's start with the opening volley of the text, because it corners you immediately with a question that sounds simple, but is, actually a trap.
Oh, I love a good trap. What is it?
It asks, who are you and who is your true father?
Ah, yeah. It's the ultimate identity test. And the text uses it to draw a very sharp distinction between two states of being.
Right.
The first is body consciousness, which is where it claims most of the world currently operates. And the second is soul consciousness, which the text refers to as dihi abhimani.
I want to pause on that term for a second, dihi abhimani. Because when I first read it, I had to stop and think about how deeply attached we are to our physical identity.
Oh, we're completely obsessed with them.
We are. If you ask someone who they are, they give you their job title, right? Or their nationality, or their role in their family. I am a manager, I am a mother, I am an American.
Yes, we define ourselves entirely by temporary physical metrics.
Exactly.
And we walk around completely tethered to these physical avatars, which are, subject to decay, societal judgment, and just worldly drama.
So much drama.
The text asserts this is actually the root of all human suffering. And to prove how stuck we are in this physical mindset, it points out a very telling, universal human quirk.
Yes. The visitor book example. I love this because it's so mundane, but so revealing.
Right. So the text says, imagine you walk into a building and someone hands you a visitor book to sign.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
And one of the prompts asks for your father's name. Instantly, without a fraction of a second of hesitation, you write down your physical father's name.
Right. Your brain goes right to genetics and physical lineage.
Yeah.
It's automatic.
Exactly. But the text argues, if you are asked for your spiritual father's name, people suddenly stumble.
The pen just hovers over the paper.
Yeah. They might guess names of deities like Krishna or Hanuman, or they might just politely admit they have absolutely no idea.
We know our physical lineage perfectly, but our spiritual lineage is just a total blank.
Which highlights the core argument here. Humanity has collectively suffered a massive bout of spiritual amnesia.
Wow, spiritual amnesia. That's a great way to put it.
We've forgotten our true identity as souls, and the text goes even further, defining both the human soul and the supreme soul in a way that I think many people find quite shocking.
It is shocking, mostly because of how aggressively minimalist it is. Like, this source describes the soul and God as a bindi.
A bindi, right, a tiny point.
Yeah, a tiny microscopic point of light. No physical form, no grand flowing robes, no booming voice echoing from the clouds.
No majestic beard.
Right, just a dot. And honestly, reading that, I couldn't help but think of a microchip.
A microchip. Huh. I like where you're going with that, but how do you mean?
Well, imagine trying to comprehend the sheer processing power of, like, a massive global supercomputer network.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And if an engineer just handed you a microscopic silicon chip, barely visible on your fingertip, and said, this is it, this runs the entire world's financial systems.
Your human brain would really struggle to accept it.
Exactly. It's too small. It lacks the visual grandeur we associate with supreme power. Like, we want the giant, blinking, room-sized machine with cables everywhere to feel sufficiently impressed.
That makes total sense.
Right. So comprehending a supreme divine entity as just a formless, invisible dot feels incredibly difficult.
That is a phenomenal analogy, and it perfectly aligns with the text's explanation for why physical idols and massive statues exist in religious traditions worldwide.
Oh, interesting. So it addresses that directly.
Yes, the text explicitly acknowledges this cognitive limitation of the human brain. It says that on what it calls the path of devotion, humans created large physical representations.
Like the big statues and temples.
Exactly, like a large stone linga in Hindu tradition. And why do they do this? Simply because sitting down and trying to focus your mind on a tiny, invisible dot of light is extremely difficult.
Yeah, we need something to look at. We crave the tangible.
We do. We want a statue we can decorate or a painting we can hang on the wall.
For sure.
But the text argues that, while understandable, this craving for the tangible is still a symptom of body consciousness.
Oh, I see.
True knowledge, and therefore true liberation, according to this framework, is realizing that both the self and the supreme are just formless points of light. It's about stripping away all the physical grandeur, all the decoration, to find that absolute, indestructible core.
Which logically brings up a very practical, almost logistical issue that the text has to address.
What's that?
Well, if God is just an invisible, formless point of light, how does he actually communicate all of this complex philosophy to humanity? I mean, a microscopic dot of light doesn't have vocal cords.
Right, it doesn't have hands to write a book either.
Exactly. This is where the framework introduces one of its most surprising and, for some, controversial mechanisms.
Yeah, the communication problem.
Yes. To solve the problem of communication, the text asserts that the Supreme Soul takes a loan of an ordinary human body.
A loan?
Right. Specifically, it mentions an elderly man named Brahma. The Supreme Soul temporarily enters this body to speak and teach because an incorporeal entity literally needs a physical mouth to impart knowledge into the physical world.
A loner body. I have to say, it's such a modern, almost administrative way to phrase divine intervention.
It really is. And speaking of administrative phrasing, here is something I really tripped over, and I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second.
Please go for it.
The text repeatedly claims that God is running a business. It says the Father's business is your business.
Yes, it does say that.
Now, I don't know about you, but business is an unusually corporate, transactional word for a divine relationship.
It really is.
It evokes profit margins, quarterly reports, performance reviews. It feels a little jarring in a spiritual context, don't you think?
I completely understand why you'd have that reaction. It definitely sounds commercial. But the text is deliberately reclaiming and repurposing that word.
Okay, how so?
It's using business, metaphorically, to describe a very specific, highly active process. This isn't about, passive meditation on a mountaintop. It's an operation.
An operation, okay.
The supreme business is the act of transforming the impure, what the text calls petite, into the pure, or pavan.
Okay, but how does that actually work? If it's a business, what is the mechanism? Is it just like a wave of a magic wand?
Not at all. The mechanism of this transformation, this business, is the transfer of knowledge.
Oh, so it's education.
Exactly. It's an educational enterprise. The Supreme Soul uses that borrowed body to explain the mechanics of the soul, the cycle of time, and the laws of karma. And by absorbing this knowledge and changing their internal mindset, human souls purify themselves. So the text instructs its followers that their only job in this life is to take up this exact same business.
To purify themselves through this knowledge and help others do the same.
Yes.
So it's a spiritual alchemy franchise, essentially.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
But To soften that transactional-sounding language, the text also introduces a deeply intimate emotional concept, God as a kudos.
A kudos, a God friend.
Yes. God isn't presented merely as a distant CEO handing down memos or a terrifying judge weighing your sins. He is a friend, a reliable guide, a liberator.
That feels a lot warmer.
It does. The text positions this supreme soul as a bridge. The claim is that he arrives at this specific, chaotic moment in time to help souls cross over from the current degraded state of the world, the Iron Age, or Kali Yuga.
Which the text frankly equates to hell, right?
Yes, literally hell. He helps them cross into the upcoming era of absolute purity, the Golden Age, or Satug, which it calls heaven.
Okay, if the ultimate goal of this business is to move humanity across a bridge from hell to a Golden Age heaven, it begs a massive question.
Which is?
What does this heaven actually look like? And if it existed before, why don't we see it in our history books?
That is the pivotal question. And to answer it, the text has to radically reinterpret ancient history and religious symbols.
It really does.
It makes incredibly bold claims about ancient India, stating that it was once this pure heaven where divine beings, deities, ruled.
Wait, really? Just ancient India?
Well, it claims that in this era, all the religious divisions, the national borders, the linguistic conflicts we see today simply didn't exist yet. It presents a unified, flawlessly pure starting point for human history.
And to make that claim stick, the text completely rewrites the traditional understanding of the scriptures we have today.
It really turns them upside down.
I was actually stunned by its take on the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, the Gita is foundational. It's one of the most famous spiritual texts in the world, traditionally understood to be the direct words of Lord Krishna. But this text argues that calling Krishna the god of the Gita is a fundamental historical mistake.
It calls it a case of mistaken identity on a cosmic scale.
Wait, hold on. That is a massive theological rewrite. How does the text possibly justify completely demoting Krishna, one of the most revered figures in Hinduism, from the status of God?
It justifies it by strictly adhering to its own core rule about the nature of the Supreme.
The point of light rule.
Exactly. As we established, God is formless, a point of light. Therefore, the Supreme Soul never takes physical birth through a human mother and never enters the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. Krishna, according to this specific framework, was born. Krishna was a human being.
A human being.
Yes, a supremely pure human being, the very first prince of the Golden Age. In fact, but still a human soul within the cycle of time.
So by stripping Krishna of the title of God, the text protects the absolute uniqueness of the Supreme Soul.
Precisely.
God is the only entity standing outside the cycle of rebirth, acting as the observer and the guide.
Exactly. And the text doesn't stop with Krishna. It reinterprets other major deities to fit this logical framework, too. Take Vishnu, for example.
Right, the grand four-armed deity floating on a cosmic serpent.
Yes, commonly depicted in art with 4 arms, holding a conch, a discus, a lotus, and a mace.
It's a very striking image.
It is, but the text claims this physical depiction is purely symbolic. It was born out of human misunderstanding as history degraded over centuries.
So the arms aren't real.
No, those 4 arms aren't literal. They actually represent the combined equal forms of male and female ruling together in perfect harmony.
Wait, really?
Yes, specifically, the first empress and emperor of the Golden Age, Lakshmi and Narayan.
That is fascinating. So Vishnu isn't like a magical cosmic being with extra limbs. Vishnu is actually a symbol for a perfectly balanced, equal partnership between a man and a woman.
Exactly.
It takes this fantastical, intimidating mythology and grounds it entirely in human relationship and human potential.
It's a deliberate process of demystification. The text constantly contrasts devotion, which it calls the blind, stumbling night of ignorance, with knowledge, which is the illuminating day.
The day versus the night.
Right. It argues that for centuries, people have been stumbling in the dark of devotion, worshiping statues and symbols without understanding the historical or psychological reality they represent.
I notice it even takes a swing at mystical experiences. It says that having spiritual visions, like closing your eyes in meditation and seeing a glowing vision of a deity, is still just a part of the night of devotion.
Oh, yeah. It firmly categorizes those mystical experiences as secondary, even somewhat childish.
That's so counterintuitive to how we usually view spirituality. I mean, usually having a vision is considered the peak of spiritual success.
Most people would think so, yeah.
But here, true liberation doesn't come from hallucinating a deity. It requires an actual, concrete, intellectual understanding of the mechanics of the soul and the cycle of time.
It elevates clear-eyed comprehension above mystical ecstasy. It's essentially saying, don't just worship the map because it looks pretty. Learn how to read it, understand the terrain, and walk the path yourself.
Okay, so let's talk about walking that path. With all this vast cosmic context laid out, God borrowing bodies, shifting ages, demystifying ancient mythology, how does a listener actually practice this?
The day-to-day application.
Yeah. What does living this philosophy look like on a random Tuesday morning when your alarm doesn't go off and you're late for work?
The source is actually remarkably practical about this daily application. It outlines behavioral guidelines for success, and it boils everything down to two foundational forces.
Okay, what are they?
Sacrifice, which it calls tiag, and love, which it calls sneh.
Let's dig into those, tiag and sneh.
The text makes a fascinating historical point about its own origins to emphasize this. It states that in the very early days of this spiritual movement, when the deep, complex intellectual knowledge we are discussing right now wasn't fully fleshed out, it wasn't the philosophy that built their community.
It wasn't.
No, it was the deep, heartfelt love, sneh, and immense personal sacrifice, tiag, of the early students that brought them success.
But what does sacrifice mean in a modern context? I assume it doesn't mean giving away all your money and moving into a cave in the Himalayas.
No, it's a much more difficult kind of sacrifice, actually. It's the sacrifice of mental attachment.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Let's use your Tuesday morning example. You're late for work, you get to the office, and a coworker sends you a deeply passive-aggressive email that undermines a project you worked hard on.
Ugh, the worst.
The natural body-conscious reaction is anger, anxiety, and a desire to retaliate. You obsess over it all day.
My blood pressure is rising just thinking about it, honestly.
Right. Tag, or sacrifice, in this moment means sacrificing your ego's desire to engage in that negativity. You sacrifice the wasteful thoughts.
Just let them go.
Exactly. You mentally step back, remember you are a peaceful soul, that tiny point of light, and you refuse to let that coworker's actions dictate your internal state. And you do this through sneh, love.
Which connects perfectly to the idea of the lover and the beloved that the text mentions.
Yes, exactly. Walk us through that connection.
Well, for millennia, humanity has been the lover, right? Searching, praying, and stumbling in the dark for the beloved, which is God.
Right.
Now, the text says, the beloved is finally here. He has arrived and is speaking to you. So the logical instruction is to disconnect your intellect from worldly distractions like that passive-aggressive email and focus your emotional bandwidth entirely on that one pure connection.
That's a great way to summarize it.
I think of it like being in a crowded, noisy room trying to tune a radio dial. Sacrifice is turning down the static of the world, and love is tuning exactly into the frequency of the Supreme Soul.
That's a beautiful analogy. If you've been searching for the love of your life for 1,000 years and they finally walk into the room, you don't spend your time arguing with a coworker over a spreadsheet.
No, definitely not.
You focus on the beloved. And the ultimate goal of maintaining that singular focus, that sacrifice and love, is to achieve what the text calls the farishta state, becoming an angel.
Okay, define angel in this framework, because I'm guessing it doesn't involve growing a pair of feathery wings and playing a harp.
Definitely no feathers. In this context, an angel or farishta is someone who is completely free from wasteful, negative, or disturbing words and thoughts.
So just total mental clarity.
Yes, it's a state of absolute internal lightness. You have no baggage. And the text provides a highly visceral metaphor to explain how an angel operates in the world. It compares the human mind to someone trying to sit on a throne.
I love a good metaphor. How does the throne work?
Think about sitting on a physical throne or even just a hard wooden chair. If your physical body is constantly wiggling, shifting its weight, getting up and sitting back down because you're uncomfortable, you can't truly occupy that seat.
Right, you look restless.
And you certainly can't command a room or rule from that posture.
You look anxious. You look like you want to be literally anywhere else.
Exactly. The text applies this to our internal state. It argues that the mind must be seated on an unshakable, immovable throne of peace.
Unshakable.
Yes. An angel is someone whose mental state cannot be wiggled by external circumstances, whether it's the actions of other people, a rude comment, a betrayal, global crisis, or the chaos of nature, a sudden illness, a delayed flight, a natural disaster. None of it should be able to knock your mind off its throne.
Wow. I'm not going to lie, that sounds exhausting, if not impossible, to be completely unaffected by the chaos of life.
It is the ultimate test of spiritual mastery, and the text is very strict about this.
Really? How strict?
Well, if your peace of mind fluctuates, if you are calm and loving when things are going your way, but you become angry, anxious, or depressed the moment things go wrong, then you don't really own the throne. You were just a temporary visitor.
That is a tough pill to swallow.
It is. To be an angel, to truly engage in the business of transforming the world from impure to pure, you must be a constant, unshakable point of peace. You have to embody the stability of that tiny point of light we talked about at the very beginning.
So, let's zoom out and look at the vast terrain we've covered today. We started by completely dismantling our physical identities, challenging ourselves to comprehend our true nature as a tiny, invisible point of light.
A microscopic chip of consciousness?
Exactly. A radical unlearning of who we think we are. And from there, we explored the concept of God, not as a distant booming voice, but as a kudadost, a God friend.
Right.
A being who literally borrows an elderly human body to run an active spiritual business aimed at educating and guiding humanity across a bridge from a degraded hell to a golden age heaven.
And we saw how that specific framework requires us to redefine history, turning multi-armed gods into symbols of human equality.
Yeah, that Vishnu reinterpretation was wild.
And reframing epic deities like Krishna as historical human princes rather than the supreme.
And finally, it all lands on deeply personal, practical instruction. To adopt a lifestyle driven by tyag and sneh, sacrifice and love.
Yes, the daily practice.
To act as the lover who has finally found the beloved, and in doing so, to achieve the mental lightness of an angel, sitting firmly on an unshakable throne. It is an incredible amount of philosophical ground, and it demands a lot from the reader.
It demands total transformation, and I think there is one specific lingering challenge from this text that stays with you regardless of your personal beliefs.
What's that?
The text dares its readers to maintain that absolutely unshakable mind, completely undisturbed by the actions of other people or the chaos of nature.
It's a high bar.
It is. So for you listening, as you go about the rest of your day, look at your own life. How often do you allow external forces, a passing thoughtless comment, a sudden change in plans, or just bad traffic to knock you off the throne of your own peace?
That's a great question.
If, as the text suggests, the ultimate love story is finally unfolding and you are no longer stumbling in the dark, how still can your mind truly become?